Greetings, Ranger fans, and welcome to another edition of Database Rangers Power Reviews, where we take a look back on our classic episodes of Database Rangers Power Reviews as we count down the 100 weeks to the 100th and final episode. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Rudy. Welcome, Sean. Welcome, Lex. Welcome, Jenny. Good to see you all. I hope you're all doing well this evening. I'm sorry that apparently a few of you have not been feeling well. Chris, sorry to hear about you testing positive for COVID there. Rest up, take good care of yourself. I hope that you are vaccinated and that will mitigate the effects. Best wishes to you. And Lex, sorry to hear that you've been feeling well, that you haven't been feeling well this past week. Rudy, it has been snowing where I live. I don't know if it's still snowing outside. I haven't checked out the window in about an hour, but yeah, it's been coming down. We had a snow day today, MJ was working from home. School was canceled today. RJ was home because daycare was canceled today. We were the whole family home today due to the snow. So I tried to get a little bit of filming done, a little bit of editing done, a little bit of resting done, because I've been knocking myself out this past week, because it's been the transition between semesters. So, like, the beginning of this week was both the beginning of, 3 new classes, and also I had all my grades due from last semester at the beginning of this week, so it was very, very busy first few days of the week. It's calmed back down a little bit, but unfortunately, that meant that my weekend was kind of chock full of lesson planning and grading and all that craziness. That being said, I am continuing to make progress on DRPR 96. I filmed a few pickup shots just after dinner and just before this. So I'm now getting to the point where it's really just like the final sequence that I really need to be working on, which is a complex sequence in a number of regards, but I'm hoping that it won't be too crazy filming wise. We'll see. And then editing is coming along. At this point, the only things left to film for 96 are all just me. So it's really just a matter of me finding the time and energy to film those last few sequences. But I've got a lot of it trimmed and placed, and it's getting to the point where I can really dig into the editing proper. So I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks I should be able to firm up the release date for the episode, which I am aiming for at the end of the month. But obviously, I don't want to jinx things and prematurely announce that it'll be done released at the end of the month until I'm certain that I'm at a good spot to be doing that. I do have winter break later on in the month, so I'm hoping that will give me some extra time that I will need. Even though there will also be like visiting with grandparents and all that good stuff. So it's going to be a busy month, as will every month this year as we continue to count down to that 100th episode. Welcome, Dan. Congratulations on the new job. Congratulations to Jenny on the semester ending. So I think it's time that we just kind of dive into things, because we are now at the summer saga of year 2. So before we do, let us not forget our 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Black lives matter. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Fascism is bad. And number 3, say it with me, chat. Superheroes are fun. So let us check back in with our favorite superhero, one Mr. Database Ranger, with episode 64 of Database Rangers Power Reviews, our review of Power Rangers Wild Force, episode 37, Fishing for a Friend.
Previously on Power Review, wireless interdimensional interface.
This this was one that felt appropriate as a choice for the Morpotzner's for what to review for the Morpotzner's episode, specifically because we had the Morpotzner focus with the Wild Force tribute episode of Super Mega Force earlier in the spring season. One of the big things with the summer season is I tried to have alignment between what episodes the characters were reviewing and what episodes they were connected to during the course of the spring season reviewing Super Mega Force. I also just, again, love how well the cut worked on Tom getting hit by the car. T Omega getting hit by the car is such a subtle bit of effects work that I'm really glad it worked out. And this was also kind of a fun bit, where to make it that continuing thing with a theme for Summer Saga. I just love Dave just sitting there off to the side. Guy's had such a long day. But yeah, when I say right at the beginning, this is going to be a long story. Like, this whole episode really takes place over the course of 5 episodes in terms of its time frame. Yeah. So uncomfortable fitting 3 people into that couch.
And since Guy is going to be staying here until he's back on his feet, is it alright if Mayo stays at your apartment tonight? Sure. Wait, I'll be right over, okay? Okay. We look forward to seeing you again. Bye, everyone.
I love the Morpotzner so much. And then this is where we follow them. Normally, we'd stay with, Guy and DB and Mayo and Dr. K and discussing them. Instead, we have seeing how the Morpotzners live their lives. Which, so many of these things were just so fun to work out. Because there's so many little quirky bits of how they operate. I really wanted them to go through the motions of being people who do not fully understand how being a person works. Also, I love the little closet bit. So many of the things that they do were actually in the script. Oh, and yeah, here we have Mayo on the couch getting up and going. And that's something we'll touch back in when we get to Mayo's episode. I can't remember if I specifically said in the script that it was going to be a turkey and a full chicken and a pie. That seems like something that I may have written, but it equally seems like something that they would have come up with on their own. And of course, they only have 1 bite each, and that's it, of these just massive meals. And then this is, their actual kitchen. I'm using the house as a stand-in for the apartments, because they were no longer living in their apartment. So whenever they come in and out of the door, it needs to be my door. And then here they're checking in on this whole business. This shot right here, where I have to have Mayo and Kay and Guy and Database all in the same shot and then diving through the portal. As you can see, there's definitely a little awkwardness with making that work around. With the post-production on that. And this is also their first time ever seeing the computer. Again, this is highlighting how it's always been hidden under the cloaking field every time that they've been there. This was amazing to film. Because there were so many bits where we just kept cracking up, just filming everything with them. Like, there are so many bits where you see the little smiles where it's just, they know how absurd it is, and We kept cracking up when filming it. With regards to the Morpotzner's pajamas, I just asked them to find what the most ridiculous things would be for them to wear. Like, we didn't work it out in advance. I'm just like, figure out what the most ridiculous thing to wear for the Morpotzner's would be for pajamas. And that's what it'll be. So Justin got an old Halloween costume. Instead of a sleeping mask, it was a blindfold. And you see, they know a little bit about Wild Force because of Database's rants during the Wild Force tribute episode of Super Mega Force, Alliance. And they're just like, elephant! And they're just thrilled by all the colorful animals, and it just felt like a good, fun episode for them to be working on. And they're just like looking to check to see if they have blinky forehead eyes. Well, is the video actually down? Well, with regards to the Morpotzner's, or are you talking about the edit? Oh, by the way, Rudy, yes, Lex is pointing out it is a Lightspeed episode. If you look at my Conversations in Context episode, Demons and Definitions, it goes in deep with the definition of fascism and why it is such a bad thing. Yeah, the Wild Force Megazords were beautiful. And they are so good at synchronizing. Keep in mind, they had to close their eyes, take a breath, and then synchronize their done after a few moments. Like, that, I have to say, Justin and Sarah genuinely do the synchronized, single mind speech, I think, better than Gem and Gemma did in RPM. Like, they're just so on top of each other and so in sync. Like, no. Okay, I love the Orc Express card. The Orc Express card is my favorite thing with this entire episode, and I wanted to make sure to include it if I was going to do a Wild Force review. Anyway, yeah, no disrespect to Mike Jin and Lee Ming Hu, who did fantastic as Gem and Gemma. It's just the synchronization was never quite on the par of what Justin and Sarah are able to do as a married couple. Now, we have established now the nature of the demonic entity that is inhabiting the Morpotzner's. As of episode 95, we have finally dug into that. But, in terms of how much control it actually has over them, it really just sort of directs the overall direction of their actions. And other than that, since it's still only really a fragment of a personality, it's mostly just trying to work off of what remains of what's there, of the people that they used to be. Again, just people who can only vaguely remember what being human even really is, and keep getting little things wrong here and there and in all sorts of different places. I'm not sure if I think Wild Force might be on the YouTube channel. I forget. I would need to double check. Fishing for a Friend is also, I think, one of Wild Force's better episodes. Or sharks. I love and more sharks. Like, honestly, if I could just do a series of just more Morpotzner describing Power Rangers episodes, that would be fantastic. Justin and Sarah are way too busy for that sort of thing, but it's just so much fun to have Power Rangers be described by a pair of people who barely even know what humanity is, but are trying their best. Okay, so Wild Force is on YouTube. I thought it was. I wasn't 100% sure. I know that they've been just loading on the seasons as of late. Aw, giant spiky train man. Fishing for a friend also just felt appropriate because that's, sort of what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring their friends back from the other dimensions. Jindrax and Toxica also just had a very sweet relationship, and it felt appropriate to have the focus be on a pair of villains who just have a very deep and abiding affection for one another. As we find out later in year 2, that the Morpotzners are, some of the most, prominent villains of this year. Or of year 2. And you see, there's every now and again you get these little lines like, "You always were the brains of this operation. We know what that's like." It plays as a joke, but you then find out in episode 78 that they are actually the brains of this whole operation. And here we go. And you see, we kind of have the implication that they all came from different adventures. You can see the Hi, Other Mayo. This is their first time, I believe, seeing Dr. K and Mayo at the same place. And it's so fun also to just have Database just pop in just in time to do the analysis, because I did want to be able to actually dig into it, and that wasn't something that I felt like it would be appropriate for the Morpotzners to really do. But you just need to give Database a few keywords, and he will launch into analysis, no problem. Oh, we are pointing at the TV screen, just as usual, for this for the live stream, simply because the laptop's not powerful enough to be able to run both things at once. So it is still definitely pointed at the TV screen. But yeah, the Summer Saga was very much a fun experiment in storytelling, where I wanted to do those sorts of parallel plot lines where everybody goes on their own personal adventures, all within the same time frame. Here, we really get to see the beginning and end of that time frame. And then as we continue throughout the rest of the Summer Saga, we just slowly work more and more towards the center, which I find interesting. Yeah, I actually lined up the camera a little bit better than usual tonight. You gotta love the Org Express card. It's in the thumbnail. And they're just like, we don't know how to talk about that. So there we go, the beginning of the Summer Saga, which was just such a fun experiment in storytelling. As I was saying, I loved, teasing all the different stories that we're about to see. Especially right at the beginning, I said, this is going to be a long story because it's 5 stories. We don't know yet why they were arguing at the beginning, what this new device is, where this portal came from, why Mayo has a cloak and Guy is all dressed in kung fu gear. And with Database and K, it's really one of those things where you need to be looking closely to realize that Database is wearing the Power Morphicon badge. And it's like, oh, that's where they were. And for anyone who was there at Power Morphicon when we filmed it, you might pick up that little nod, but anybody else at the time probably wouldn't have known what was going on until we actually got to the episode. But yeah, I really liked, each of these episodes with welcome to the Morpotzners, welcome to Mayo, welcome to Guy, welcome to Power Morphicon, and then welcome to Dr. K. Where the Dr. K episode will ultimately give us, okay, what was the inciting incident that led to the development of the wireless interdimensional interface portal alignment device, which hasn't been named yet. We don't know what that is yet. We slowly are going to keep getting more pieces. And I deliberately sort of tried to position the characters in such a way that the unfolding of the story would work that way. The Morpotzners are going to be the most separated from it. They would be the first to leave, the last to come back. Then Mayo stays a little longer, but she's still sleeping in the other apartment, so she still needs to go over there and then come back. Guy's a little closer to it, because he's sleeping on the couch, so he's going to be sticking around a little longer, and he'll be the first one up. And then we have the fun adventure at Power Morphicon, and then we get to explore, okay, what happened overnight with Dr. K, with the final episode of the Summer Saga. Did anyone leak spoilers about the PMC panel before it was released? I don't think so. One of the nice things about the PMC panel is that there really weren't that many spoilers from that episode. There were little bits of hints and foreshadowing, but I tried not to give too much away. There was, you had the impression that they were there because of something relating to the wireless interdimensional interface, but you didn't know the exact circumstances of how they got there or anything else other than that. There were little bits that Dr. K was starting to remember and little hints of what was going on in the surrounding saga. But yeah, this episode, didn't come out until September, unfortunately. And I think even the spring season technically ended after we had gotten back from Power Morphicon. So nothing I think by way of major spoilers came from the PMC panel. But yeah, there's so many fun things. Filming with Justin and Sarah is always a delight. And it was really nice that we could just kind of blow through this episode pretty well, because it's just like them sitting on the couch and it's like, okay, we're going to clear an afternoon, sit down, boom, 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 not too many positions that we needed to worry about filming in, not too many places we needed to go. This was also just an interesting series of episodes to film, because we filmed, like, the opening and closing of, 3 episodes in a row all together at the same time. September is technically the end of summer. I say summer does not end until September 21st, or whenever the, autumnal equinox is. But interestingly, I think probably one of the examples that pops into my head most in terms of TV shows doing the same sort of trope is probably Transformers Prime, oddly enough, where I remember that they had a series of episodes where they were all seeking different pieces of some MacGuffin. I forget the exact thing that they were piecing together, like parts of the space bridge or something like that. And so each episode was a different collection of characters going on the quests to find their piece of the space bridge, or whatever it may have been. And I really liked that trope. And I'd seen it done before on a small scale where it's like, oh, we see one half of the story in this episode, and then we see the other half in the other episode. Like, I think like Leverage and Farscape have each done like a boys' night out episode, and then the next episode would be like the girls' night out episode. And you see, this is what half the cast was doing that night. This is what the other half of the cast was doing that night. But I really wanted to focus in and give each individual character a chance to shine. And this seemed like a really great way to do that by sending them flying off throughout the multiverse and really kind of blowing open, the world of Power Reviews and giving Guy and Mayo in particular some levels up, along with giving Dr. K a new piece of technology. Because, Database had now become a Power Ranger, and I didn't want it to then just be, okay, he is the only one who can do things now, the other characters are just kind of superfluous and reliant upon him. So, I wanted to kind of have the spring season, express Mayo's frustration over not being able to be involved, demonstrate how Guy is not up to the challenge of these enhanced threats like T Omega, and then give each of them a chance to kind of level up. Mayo will obviously be gaining her magical powers during her quest. Guy gets some training from the Pai Shui Academy on his quest, so that when we have the big challenge of, evil Database during the fall saga, during the Super Mega Fall season, then he's able to, they're able to sort of meet him on his level to an extent, because they'll have some sort of countermeasures that he wouldn't know about, that he wouldn't be able to account for. So it was very important to be able to have that for that, Venjix Database arc to really play right, which I knew that I wanted to have that for the fall season. I knew that I wanted to play with an evil Ranger arc, because that is such a recurring trope in Power Rangers. I knew that was going to need to be, the Morpotzner behind it, and I knew that there was going to need to be some way that his friends were going to be able to counter that. So the Summer Saga, in many ways, is sort of setting the groundwork for that to make that possible. And as we saw, when the Morpotzners are playing around with Dr. K's computer, it shuts off for a little while. We don't know what that gap in time is. But the implication is that because they were left alone with Dr. K's computer, they were able to get those specs on Venjix that later becomes so important to the rest of to the not spring season, the fall season. So a lot of stuff gets this gets a lot of the ball rolling on a lot of that stuff, outside of just being a really fun way to highlight the fantastic characters of the Morpotzners, which again, Justin and Sarah have just been so perfect in these roles. So yeah, a lot of times September is sort of the beginning of the Halloween season. I usually think of it as the end of September. Then once it's October, we're in the Halloween season. People always try to start holidays a little early. But yes, ironically, the end of the Summer Saga basically ends up becoming the Halloween episode, with the Dr. K digging into her mind being running very parallel to the Tricks or Treat episode where we go inside a Database Ranger's mind. But yeah, I'm so glad that the Summer Saga was able to come together as well as it did. And a lot of that is, I think, at this point, the characters have been established well enough that getting to see them take center stage in this way is really a treat. People see, welcome to the Morpotzners. It's a Morpotzners episode. That's just, it's going to be a fun episode. Even if it is a little on the shorter side, and you don't get as many, big reveals as other episodes might give. I always love focusing on them. The wacky characters are often my favorites. The Morpotzners, Dr. C, whenever we really get to, lean into, like, Database Ranger being super fanboyish, it's just always good times. And once again, this runs off of that big major theme throughout Power Reviews of context, where context changes everything every time. So this is one of those situations where we're suddenly dropped into a scenario with no context, with the implication that it will be slowly peeled back and slowly revealed over the course of the next 4 episodes. And yeah, it again just runs parallel with what we did in the spring. Morpotzner's get to take center stage in Alliance, and the Wild Force review. Mayo gets to take center stage in Blue Saber Saga, which introduced the Mystic Force, which was sort of the Mystic Force tribute of Super Mega Force, and then gets to go to Sumerian Forest in the Legendary Catastrophe review. And then we have Guy, focused on with Dr. C in Spirit of the Tiger for the Super Mega Force review, and then Tigers Fall, Lions Rise for the Jungle Fury review. And then Dr. K gets the focus of, an RPM review, which is the only time in the series when Dr. K really gets to do an RPM review. And then we have Database and Dr. K together doing a Samurai review, very much harkening back to how the show started. So I wanted to make sure that the Summer Saga was very character-driven, even down to which episodes each character was reviewing. And yeah, it was good times. And, there were obviously the challenges of the composite shots with Mayo and Kay in this episode. Although I think the stuff towards the end definitely is a lot smoother than the little bit where they're all shuffling around the door in the beginning, because honestly, just trying to composite the shots around Mayo's hair was just such a mess. That shot, as much work as I put into it, is still a little bit of a mess, just because Mayo's hair was so hard to properly trim around, and I had to put Mayo in the foreground to make it all work. Because it is supposed to be Mayo falls in, Guy falls in, then Database and K. So that's how we kicked off our Summer Saga, which, believe it or not, is still going to be continuing to have ramifications even at the late stage where we are in year 3. So I will say that the stuff that happens in the Summer Saga, it's still important. The Summer Saga is still there's still repercussions that we haven't explored yet, which I look forward to revealing to you, as with many of the things still coming up in the series. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun to hopefully release 96 in the next few weeks. I hope you're all looking forward to it. I certainly am. It's been definitely challenging in a number of ways, but not on par with 95 in terms of challenging. That being said, it is still going to be delivering some major reveals, major action, hopefully some good jokes that you'll appreciate, and everything that you've loved about our Power Review so far. So I think that we're about wrapping up. This was a shorter episode, being only about 15 minutes, since the Morpotzners are, sort of out of the loop on a lot of the story, and much of the humor just comes from the little visual gags and their delivery. But before we head out, let us not forget our remaining 3 equally non-controversial phrases. So, number 1, say it with me, chat. Love is love. Number 2, say it with me, chat. Trans rights are human rights. And number 3, say it with me, chat. Robots are cool, even when they get sent through a portal into another dimension. Oh, and yes, Rudy, the video that helps explain, the nature of my previously stated non-controversial phrase that fascism is bad. Check out Conversations in Context, Demons and Definitions. It's probably one of the videos that I'm most proud of in terms of talking about what I consider to be an important topic. So, thank you all again for joining me this week. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Stay safe out there with the winter storm and everything. And until next time, Farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.